Sometimes, the cruelest thing isn't what's taken from you, it's how others laugh while doing it. On the open prairies, a quiet girl's hair was her pride, a gift from her late mother. But when a group of bullies decided to humiliate her, cutting it off in cruel laughter, they didn't realize the storm they had unleashed. Because her father was no ordinary man, he was someone they should never have crossed. Chapter 1. The Prairie Girl. Samantha Hayes lived in the wide, rolling prairies where golden fields stretched as far as the eye could see. She was gentle, quiet, and deeply connected to the land her family had worked for generations. Her most cherished possession wasn't jewelry or clothes, it was her long, dark hair. Her mother, who had passed away when Samantha was only 8, used to braid it every morning by the kitchen window. Each braid carried a memory, each strand a connection to the woman who had taught her kindness, patience, and strength. To Samantha, her hair wasn't just hair, it was her mother's touch living on. But in school, her uniqueness became a target. Some kids teased her about her simple prairie life, her boots, and especially her hair. They called her horse tail, prairie doll, and worse. Samantha endured it silently, believing her mother's words, kindness outlasts cruelty. One Friday afternoon, everything changed. Samantha stayed late at school for art class, carrying her sketchbook of prairie landscapes as she headed to the bike rack. That's when she noticed them, 3 girls from her class, known for their sharp tongues and sharper cruelty. "Well, look who it is," one sneered. "The Prairie Princess." They circled her like vultures, mocking her boots, tugging her braid, jeering as she tried to pull away. But then one girl pulled out a pair of scissors. Samantha froze. "Let's make her look normal for once," the leader said, smirking. Before she could scream, they pinned her down, laughing. The cold blades closed around her braid, and with a single snip, Samantha's hair fell to the ground. The sound of their laughter was louder than the scissors. Tears stung her eyes as she clutched the chopped braid against her chest. To the bullies, it was just a cruel prank. To Samantha, it was like losing her mother all over again. They left her trembling in the empty schoolyard, her pride gone, her heart shattered. But in her pocket, she carried something powerful, her phone. With trembling fingers, she called one number. It rang once, twice. Then a deep, steady voice answered. "Sam, what's wrong?" Through her sobs, she whispered, "Daddy, they cut it. They cut off my hair." There was silence. Then his voice hardened. "Stay where you are. I'm coming." What those bullies didn't know was that Samantha's father wasn't just a prairie farmer. He was a man whose name carried weight, whose reputation made even the toughest men step back. And tonight, he was going to show why. Chapter 2. The Father They Didn't Expect. John Hayes was a tall, weathered man who had built his life on both discipline and honor. Before moving back to the prairie to raise Samantha, he had served as a decorated sheriff in the city, a man who faced down gangs, criminals, and chaos with steel in his eyes. He left that world behind for peace, but his strength never left him. When he pulled into the schoolyard in his old pickup, Samantha ran into his arms, clutching her braid. He saw the jagged cut, the broken pride in her eyes, and his heart burned. "Who did this?" he asked gently. Samantha whispered their names, and John nodded once. He didn't storm. He didn't rage. But the storm inside him was unmistakable. That evening, he went straight to their homes. Not with fists, not with threats, but with the kind of presence only a man like him could carry. The first girl's father answered the door, smirking at the complaint. Kids will be kids, the man shrugged. John stepped forward, his voice calm but sharp. When kids destroy what's sacred to someone, it stops being a game. This isn't about hair, it's about dignity. The room grew still. The father, who thought he could dismiss it, now saw the steel in John's eyes. He knew this wasn't just a farm man standing on his porch. This was someone who had upheld justice long before these girls were even born. John didn't shout. He didn't threaten. He made them listen. One by one, he visited the homes, making each family understand the depth of what had been done. By the end, the bullies stood before Samantha, tears in their own eyes, forced to apologize not just with words but with humility. Samantha listened quietly, holding her braid. Forgiveness didn't come easily, but her father's strength gave her the power to rise above. Later that night, John sat with Samantha on the porch under the prairie stars. He gently held her braid in his hands and said, "Hair grows back, sweetheart. But your spirit, that's what they can never touch. You carry your mother here." He placed a hand on her heart, and no scissors in the world can take that away. Samantha leaned into him, tears drying into strength. She realized then that her father's power wasn't in fists or anger, it was in his ability to command respect without lowering himself to cruelty. From that day forward, the bullies never touched her again. And in school, her quiet dignity began to shine brighter than their cruelty. Closing message for viewers. Never mistake silence for weakness, and never assume someone is alone. Behind every quiet soul may stand a protector whose strength you can't imagine. And remember, true strength isn't in revenge, but in justice, respect, and the courage to rise above cruelty.